Hello, and today we're going to be talking about what causes inflation in the long run. Just to refresh your memory, the definition of inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services increase over time. And we know that if the money supply grows too big relative to the size of the economy, the unit value of currency diminishes, its purchasing power falls, and prices rise. So, long lasting inflation is usually a result of a lax monetary policy. And today we're going to talk about four main theories that kind of go along with what causes inflation in the long run. We're going to talk about the neutrality of money, the classical theory of inflation, the quantity theory of money, and then inflation expectations. Starting off with the neutrality of money, this is the economic theory that states that changes in the money supply only affect nominal variables. Nominal variables include prices, wages, exchange rates, and not real variables such as employment, real GDP, and real consumption. The theory implies that the central banks cannot affect the real economy by creating money. Instead, any increase in the money supply would be offset by proportional rises in prices and wages. This is an example of this is like if money rises by 5%, then the price level will also rise by 5% in the long run. And we can see that in the example to the right in the graph. You can see money, like this is in the long run. We can see that money supply has rose and price level has gone up as well. Next, we're going to talk about the classical theory of inflation. So this is the relationship between the money supply, the GDP, also known as the output, and the overall level of prices. The classical theory of inflation explains that inflation is a result of an increase in the money supply. So there's examples of this throughout history of the US. Like in the 1970s, prices rose by 7% per year, and then in the 1980s it rose by an average of 2% per year. So you can just kind of see that this isn't a new thing. It's been around for a long time, and inflation is something that we've always had to deal with. Next, we're going to talk about the quantity theory of money. So the idea that the value of money, and the value of money can also be like in the graph is like the aggregate price level, is determined by the overall quantity of money in existence, and the overall quantity of money in existence is just another name for the money supply. So the general price level of goods and services in an economy is directly proportional to the amount of money circulating in the economy. And so an example of this is if a central bank doubles the money supply in an economy, the overall price level of goods and services in that economy will also roughly double, leading to significant inflation. So it's just as price levels, as there's more money, as they're making more money, just the economy, all the prices will have to go up, because you can't just make more money and expect inflation not to happen. Lastly, we're going to talk about inflation expectations. So this is the rate at which people, consumers, businesses, investors expect prices to rise in the future. This is important because it can affect actual inflation. If people expect prices to rise, then businesses will want to raise their prices by at least that amount. And this also is the same for workers and unions. If they know that prices are going to go up, then they're also going to want their wages to rise. This means if inflation expectations rise, actual inflation it will also tend to rise. And an example of this is like in a grocery store. If they expect the future prices to go up, then they will basically just raise their prices now. And this could be simple things like fruit, eggs, and milk. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that this helped you get a better understanding at what causes inflation in the long run.